Welcome to the Rubber Bud Show. Hey there, it's Robert from the Robert Bud Show. Thank you so much for joining me. Thanks for listening. What I do on these shows is I interview those that really interest me, and what I'm interested in is the human being behind the business. What makes them tick? What influenced them as a kid? What influences them now? What books have they read? Who were their mentors? What were the turn of events that had them do what they're doing now? That's what I'm really interested in. And who we have on the show today is Marisa Molina. And she actually goes by Marisa Alejandra on Facebook. So if you're looking for her on Facebook, that's what she goes by. Her company is called Hello Beautiful Health. That's Hello Beautiful Health. And she specializes in intuitive eating, which is super interesting. We dig into what that is and how that impacts your not only your eating, but your entire life. And how the heck did she get into that? Because she went to school for molecular biology, and Hello Beautiful Health is not that. So we get into that. We also get into where she would go if everything was packed up in a backpack, and where would she travel to? Where would the first place be, and where would she end up? What type of music gets her pumped up? She doesn't drink any coffee, so I'm always curious about those who don't drink coffee. Not only curious, but a little skeptical. You don't drink coffee, huh? What do you do? Anyway, she tells us all about that. So, without further ado, here is Marisa. I hope you enjoy the show. I really dug digging in. All right, so here's Marisa.
Perfect.
So I usually do this. My sound check is, so what'd you have for breakfast this morning?
Ooh, that's a great question. I had sautéed sweet potatoes with salt and a fried egg on top.
No wonder it smelled good when I came in here.
Exactly. It was really good. That's my new breakfast thing right now.
Those are two of my favorite things, sweet potato and fried eggs.
Oh my God,
I love eggs.
So good. You get I'm all about flavors. So you get like a creamy flavor, you get a little salty, you get a little sweet, all like mixed up into one.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I know you as Marisa Molina, but what's the other?
Oh, on Facebook?
Yeah.
It's Marisa Alejandra.
Alejandra.
Yeah, that's my middle name.
Oh, why do you have that on Facebook?
I don't know. You know, like way back when they were like, you have to be careful, like what you have on your Facebook, you know, like, so not everyone knows all of your information. I just switched it to my middle name.
Huh.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Nothing special about that.
I was a little confused because I was like, I don't know, who am I supposed to look up or kind of thing, you know, because I do stalk you before I do these interviews.
That's good.
I do a fair amount of stalking.
Is this person good enough to be on this podcast?
Okay. Like what school you went to, what you studied. That always interests me, like what people take during school, or, you know, whatever they major in or they graduate in and get a degree in, and then they end up doing.
It's totally different sometimes. Yeah. That was definitely my case.
Yeah, so what was it?
Yeah, let's see. So I got my Bachelor's of Science from UCSD in Molecular Biology. Way back when I started college, my freshman year, I thought that I wanted to be a geneticist. So I got my degree in molecular biology. And then it kicked my butt. It was really hard. And I actually decided that I didn't want to work in a lab anymore. I was like, this is like not that fun for me.
Yeah, because you worked in a lab. What was that? It's called something San Diego, and it's a woman's name or something like that?
Lab.
Like 2006, there was something.
Well, I worked in a chemistry lab when I was in college. Then I worked for the UCSD iMobile for Children.
Maybe that's what it was.
And then I worked for the Center for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah, I moved to Georgia. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Georgia's amazing. Super, super great place. Yeah, I worked with the CDC out there, and I did research in STDs, which was really, really interesting. So if you want to know where the hot spots for STDs are in the country, I totally have that information.
All right. Well, when I want to know that, I know who to go to.
But on a serious note, so what I looked at there was I was looking at the difference in rates of STDs among the Latino population. So they kind of, because the Latino population was smaller, they kind of had everyone lumped together. So like Mexicans and Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, and all of the Cubans, they were all kind of like lumped together in one group. But they all have really different like characteristics, demographics, and sexual behaviors. Yeah. So I was basically trying to get them to, take a look at them differently, like as different subgroups. So I published a paper, and it was really interesting. It was fun. It was cool.
You telling me different races have different sexual behaviors?
Yes. They totally do. Mexicans tend to be actually more conservative. They're more religious, tend to have fewer partners than other racial ethnic groups. Yeah. So. I
wouldn't even think of that.
Yeah, they totally study that stuff. Trying to prevent disease here. So yeah, it was a really, really interesting experience. It was cool to be surrounded. That was back when swine flu was big. I actually got swine flu, I think, because it was like a hotbed in Georgia, because they were sending out all of the people from all the different departments like out across the country to go and do surveillance to see where the outbreaks and things like that, and they'd all come back and then bring it back.
Huh.
So
perfect.
Yeah. So probably I've had it. I was sick in bed for about a week, but I survived.
It's like the flu.
It's like the flu. Yeah, I just had like a fever for 4 or 5 days, something.
That's pretty cool to say. I had the swine flu.
I survived swine flu.
What in the world had you wanted to be in that field in the first place? Yeah. What was the inspired you to do that?
So the summer after my junior year of college, I decided that I wanted to go abroad and do some sort of work. And so I did I did a project in Guatemala. It wasn't research. And I was working for the Ministry of Health of a small city called Quetzaltenango in Guatemala, and I was helping them revise a protocol for the treatment of HIV patients. So what I was doing was that there was this, he was amazing, this man. He was a psychologist, and he was also a Mayan priest, so he spoke like 9 languages. And he was the one who supported all of these people who would come in who were HIV positive to help them get treatment and help them sustain their treatment, prevent it from spreading any further. And so he had a really great success rate in people living a long time with HIV in the country. So I was shadowing him to see what his process was. It was in an open-air lung hospital, and people would come in with tuberculosis, and then they would test them for HIV, right? Because tuberculosis doesn't really happen to you unless you have your immune system is not doing well. So about 1 in every 20 people was HIV positive who came into that open-air lung hospital, which is crazy. That's so many people. Yeah. It's a lot of people. And he would, they were uneducated. A lot of them had never been to school in their lives because they're from all these indigenous parts of Guatemala. And he would explain to them what it was. He would use pictures and draw it and then support them to have a healthy lifestyle and to take their medication so that they could, really live and not be sick for the rest of their lives. So it was really, really amazing experience. It was also really hard and sad. I sat in on sessions with him and stuff like that. But I was revising that protocol so that they could implement it in other parts of the city with other people, how to properly treat them, what was an effective way of getting them the support that they needed. So that was really, really inspiring.
How long were you there?
I was there for about a month and a half. Yeah. It was really, really amazing. I was really inspired to do that kind of work. When I got back, I was like, okay, I'm going to go into public health.
Yeah.
So I got my master's in public health at San Diego State and studied epidemiology. And that's kind of what started after that I went to the CDC and Then I managed an obesity prevention research study for the CDC here in San Diego for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been amazing. That was my academic career. And then I totally switched everything and started this.
Well, what do you do now? Tell us what you do now.
Okay, so let's see.
And how the heck did that happen?
Oh my gosh. Well, a lot of things, right? So I guess, so it was an obesity prevention research study. So we were promoting healthy lifestyle and physical activity to people, low-income women.
Mm-hmm. In San Diego.
In San Diego, mm-hmm. Yeah. And, what I started to notice was, there's other things besides giving people the knowledge that has them actually be able to, have healthy behaviors, right?
Yeah.
And there's other parts of it. And so in this program, we actually talked about depression, emotional health, self-esteem. We looked at what is it, the convenience, your exercise classes need to be at the right time for people to go. They need to be in a place that's easy for them to get to, affordable, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And really in order for them to participate. And then there's still some things that get in the way. I would have, some of my students come back and, they have people who are depressed or who have households where people were calling them fat or just situations that were not encouraging them to have healthy behaviors. So alongside that and plus personal reasons, I was I don't really want to sit in an office anymore. Mm-hmm. I'm tired of that. I really wanted to work on the ground with people around their health and well-being. And I had a colleague who was doing research in the area of intuitive eating. I had gone through nutrition school. I had studied every nutrition, type that exists, diet type that exists, and they all work and they all don't work all at the same time for different people. And so you get out of school and you're like, okay, well, what do I recommend to people? If all these things work for some people and they don't work for other people, what do I recommend to people? And so intuitive eating really filled that niche. So I'm an intuitive eating counselor. And I work with
a company, Hello
Beautiful Health. Yep. So I started my own company called Hello Beautiful Health. And I decided that I was going to teach people how to listen to their bodies to eat rather than to try to stick to a diet plan. So it's okay to use guidelines, like diets as guidelines, mm-hmm. But really it's up to us to decide whether those guidelines actually empower us and make us feel good and our bodies feel good. And so really what I do is I allow people to learn to listen to their body and use their body to eat rather than their mind. Mm-hmm. And on part of that, there's an emotional level too. So a lot of people struggle with binge eating, emotional eating, overeating. One of the problems with the 80-20 is that your weekend is your 20% and you go nuts and you feel sick and you feel terrible and where's the balance, right?
Yeah, the 20 is actually only about 2 meals a week.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of a whole weekend of debauchery.
Exactly, but people can't control themselves. They have one bite and they're like, oh my God, I can't do it, right?
Yeah.
So, and like I said, everything works, everyone has a different, it's something different that works for them, right? And so allowing people to identify what really works for them is kind of what the intuitive eating part. And it really just resonated with me as, a better way to go because I see people fail at diets all the time.
Right.
I would see people struggle or feel bad about themselves because they couldn't, lose weight or feel better or whatnot. And so that really inspired me to take that on and to, really support people to do that.
Well, what you said earlier before we started recording this is that you have some clients that are very, what you would say, A personality kind of thing, really very type A, and so when they're struggling with I'm failing and and type A personalities don't fail, and so they're super hard on themselves, and it kind of overlaps their way they relate to how they eat is in their entire life. It overlaps their entire life. Like you're saying, someone who just eats in their car, just grubs down on a bunch of food probably is someone who says doesn't take care of themselves and says yes a lot and has themselves way back on the bottom of the list of their people.
Totally, absolutely. Yeah, I was talking about that earlier about the way that we eat is the way that we are in life.
Yeah.
Or the way we do one thing is the way that we do everything, right? And the same thing applies to food. And so, like you just mentioned, you know, if you don't sit and eat and enjoy, you probably also don't take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Or a lot of people, you know, that perfectionist behavior. So
Right.
I think what I see in eating most often is like, you know, you fall off the wagon, right, with your food, and then you spend the next week failing, right? And you're like, oh no, like I'm such a terrible person. I ate
I'm a failure.
something off of my diet, and then you go nuts for a whole week.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying, okay, like next meal, like what do I want to eat? Right?
Yeah.
And so you get to like really transform your relationship to failure and your relationship to food all at the same time. Which and I think also like you know, teaching them to celebrate the little wins, right? So a lot of times, a lot of us are, you know, if it wasn't perfect or it didn't turn out, like, you know, I want to have 10 women at my event, you know, and you get 7. And you're like, God, like, what did I do wrong? They didn't have 10 there, you know? But really transforming that and be like, you know what? I had 7 women there. That's awesome, you know? And celebrating those wins, which in the end really empowers us to keep going anyways, right? So it's exciting to see that relationship between self, like food, and then your life.
Well, you've totally recreated me with all this stuff because I'm super hard on myself. If I'm like fail at, you know, eating whatever, I'm a donut-aholic. So if there's a donut around me, I'm like, there's been a time where I would schedule my day around going to the donut shop, and that's all I can think about. It's freaking crazy. And then I'm like, okay, I just can't have any. I'm just not going to do any because once I do one, then I want one tomorrow. And I've gone through this whole beat myself up kind of thing. It's, you know, surprisingly enough that, you know, I'm a personal trainer and, you know, I grew up as a fat kid and blah, so I'm just a mess. So like when, like I'm really difficult on myself if I miss a workout or I'm like, okay, I just can't do any sugar. I'm a sugaraholic. You know, it's like that. I'm like, I'm super extreme with the whole thing. And then the whole week is just like, oh, screw it. Either I'm going to work my ass off or not going to work at all.
Yeah, there's no balance in that,
there's no
right?
balance. Yeah.
Totally. It's crazy, right? But we have it. Well, first of all, we're human beings and we want what we can't have. So the minute you put a rule down and you're like, I can't have any sugar, it shows up all over and around you. Like all of a sudden there's a donut shop that popped up across the street and you're like, where'd that come from?
Yes.
That is totally human. And it totally happens. So it's really, I had the similar problem. I had a crazy addiction to like sugar, right? I mean, we think about it when we grow up, like our parents reward us with sweets, or it becomes like a special treat on holidays. Or like for me, it was like my dad was like, well, if you're good and you do this during church, you can go buy candy at the drugstore afterwards. And I'd be like, okay, great. So, you know, it's built into us, right? And it's, you know, it's important as parents, if there's any parents listening, to not reward children with food, right? It's, you know, reward them with something else, you know, because it builds a habit. But speaking of kids, I was sitting next to a little girl at a conference, and I just love this because this is how we all think. And her parents had told her that she wasn't allowed to have sweets on the weekdays. She could only have sweets on the weekends. So it was a weekend. So she goes to the buffet and she grabs dessert. And she starts eating the dessert, and then she pauses and she sits back in her chair and she looks really full. I'm like, oh, so like, are you full? Are you done? And she's like, no. And I'm like, are you full? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, so, but you're still going to keep eating? And she's like, yeah. She's like, I can't have sweets during the week. I got to finish this now.
Yeah.
She wasn't even hungry anymore, right? But already our mindset about food totally shifts us into like, I have to eat all of this.
Yeah.
Rather than just having what we want to enjoy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or this was me in the lunchroom. So sweets would be like in the lunchroom, like, okay, everyone, there's like donuts in the lunchroom. And I'd be like, okay, I'm going to go have one. I'm going to have one. That's it. And I would go and I'd like scarf it down really fast so no one could see me have it. And then I'd like walk away and I didn't even taste it practically because I just ate it so fast. And I'd be like, all right, I need another one because I didn't even taste that one, right? And I would be like, okay, if no one's in the lunchroom when I go back, then I'll grab one. If someone's there, I'll just walk by, like, it's okay, I don't have to have one. And then no one would be there and I'd eat it again. And it didn't stop, right? It was like, okay, well, I'll just keep eating this way, you know?
Yeah.
And that is our mentality, right? When it comes to food, we've just built all these rules about, like, what we can and can't have. And our mind is what chooses to eat it rather than what we really want. Yeah. Right? And the same thing applies for you in donuts,
Heck
right?
Yeah. I'll use a different credit card so Lindsay can't tell that I went out and bought it. Lindsay, are you listening to that? Check it. I'll use my business account.
Awesome.
Yeah. And our thing growing up was finish everything on your plate and then you can have dessert or whatever. So if there's like food on the table and there's like 10 people at the table, I'm like, whoa, wait a second, you gonna eat that? Whoa, wait a second, you gotta finish this. I gotta finish all mine and I gotta finish it fast. Our thing was
because I need dessert.
Yeah, I'm gonna finish fast. And my dad and I were like, I don't know, unsaid competition. If you didn't get all your food the first helping, my dad would just finish it off. You're like, damn it, I can't have any more. So I'm going to just like pile it on whether I'm going to eat it or not or need it or want it or whatever.
And it totally still exists in you. Like even now,
Heck yeah.
you have plenty of food on the table and there's no one else competing with you. You still have the need to like eat really quickly,
Are you
right?
watching me this morning or what?
The human psyche is amazing, you know? And and that's what I do. Like I get to retrain people's minds around eating because our bodies have been designed, like they're engineered to tell us exactly what to eat, right? The problem is that we usually interpret our cravings incorrectly or we like ignore them. We try to ignore them thinking they're bad, right? But there are our body's like early warning signal that something's off balance. And so it's like, okay, like, or it's our mindset, you know, like I have to have this, you know, because I can't stop thinking about it, you know? And so we get to like reshift the way that we think about food and start using our body to listen like, okay, if you could have the donut every day of the week and you could have it tomorrow, you get to ask yourself like right now, do you feel like eating a donut?
I actually don't feel like eating one right now.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Your body's telling you, like, I don't need a donut, right?
Yeah.
And so you get to start bringing, like, awareness and actually listening, like, donut doesn't even sound good to me right now, right?
Yeah.
But there are maybe moments and times where a donut does sound good, and you get to, like, see and bring awareness to, like, why is that? Am I tired? Is it because I'm having a hard week? I failed yesterday, so I want a donut today? Like, there is usually like a relationship between why we want that food and why we want it so bad. Yeah. And then you have power over it. Then you can make a choice, you know? I always laugh. I'm like, last week the election was crazy and everyone's just going haywire, both sides of the party, you know, whatever. Everyone's going nuts. And I was like, man, this sucks. And I was like, I think I'm going to emotionally eat today. But then you have a choice, right? It's like conscious. Rather than being unconscious or not in control, you actually can be like, okay, like, I'm going to go enjoy this donut. And I'm going to really enjoy it. And I'm going to take it all in. And then I'm okay, you know? And you probably, if you allowed yourself to do that, it probably wouldn't be quite as attractive anymore. Yeah,
more than likely. Yeah, I'm a super control freak too. So if something isn't going right in my life, I'm like, I know I can control what I eat. So I'm going to control, like, you know, this is the next thing. I'm going to eat this. I'm going to eat a lot of it because no one can tell me what to do. Don't tell me what to do.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, we are all rebellious eaters. As soon as someone's like, you shouldn't eat that, Robert, you're like, what? I'm going to eat 10 of them instead of one. Yeah, exactly.
Watch this. Yeah.
But so it's not a conscious choice, right? So imagine if you could actually, you know, if someone said like, hey, like Lindsay's like, Robert, I found out that you're buying donuts on your business account. You can't do that anymore. You could be like, all right, that's okay. I mean, I'll have it when I feel like it, right? Instead of being like, tomorrow I'm going to buy a dozen and I'm going to leave them in the office.
So you grew up in Fresno? Mm-hmm. So growing up in Fresno, what was it like, you know, with, like, if you can have your way of thinking now around food and growing up and, like, the culture and stuff like that?
You know, I don't remember. I mean, probably it was just like anywhere else, except that we had awesome fruits and vegetables there because Fresno is like the agricultural capital of, you know, the United States. So actually, oranges taste way better in the Central Valley. All the fruit. When I came to San Diego, I was like, this stuff doesn't even taste good. Like, but they have really, really awesome produce and fresh markets everywhere and stuff like that. But, you know, it's all around our family.
Yeah.
You know, I think that our culture really, like, I mean, I would say Fresno and everywhere else, you know, when I lived there, which is a long time ago, more than 14, 15 years ago, was the same everywhere. You know, like, not like, no concern really. There probably wasn't as big a concern. Everyone kind of still went to McDonald's sometimes, you know? It was different back then. But I think it's cultural.
Yeah.
More than anything else.
Yeah, what was your your influence on your...
In my family and the food?
Yeah.
We were not allowed to have sugared cereals during the school year. So I have a serious addiction to cereal sometimes that I'm now totally conscious of and aware of. I love Lucky Charms. Yeah, so no sugar cereals but my parents ate pretty healthy. They were pretty good.
Yeah.
We sat down at the table always. Every dinner we sat down at the table, which was really awesome.
Yeah.
And my mom made my lunches every day until I graduated from high school. So that was awesome.
That is awesome.
It was really awesome. And I think looking back though, you know, my biggest experience with like weight and, you know, food didn't really come from my parents because my parents were super loving, supportive people. But I was about 12 years old and I was a little chubby. I was like preparing for puberty. I was, you know, I wasn't like fat, but I was definitely chubby. And I had a doctor tell me like, you're overweight and you need to start watching what you eat and exercising more. And she just said it in such a way that it was like not nice, you know? And I remember like sitting there taking it in. And then as soon as I got to the car, I was like, Mom, she's so mean. Never make me go back there ever again. You know, like I don't ever want to see her again. Like there was something wrong with me. You know, that was like my experience of it. And I think that that's one of the things that like I was on every diet after that. I mean, I did like low calorie, low sugar, low fat, paleo, you know, whole food diet, vegetarian, no cheese, bone broth, you know, I did the whole thing. And there were, I mean, my weight fluctuated, you know, I would like be really skinny. I did the, you know, ate lean cuisines you know, I did it all. I was there. I did it all. But you know, the thing is that it doesn't make us feel better mentally, right? That's where the shift has to come. Like I could be 110 pounds, right? And I was like really tiny and like skinny and petite and I still was dating a jerk guy who didn't respect me, right? Like my self-worth piece was not there. My self-love piece was not there.
Yeah.
It didn't really like make a difference. And it's really like that shift in that mindset about like why do we eat healthy? Why we want to feel happy with ourselves, right? We want to feel good, we want to have energy and all those things. And sometimes instead of using it to like actually be happy and feel good, we use it to fix ourselves. Like there's something wrong or something like that. And so that's my mission, is to like have people use it to like revitalize themselves and to feel good rather than to fix. And I think that that's where like intuitive eating comes in, you know, is really getting to trust yourself with food rather than like, okay, I have to be on a diet because I need to be 107 pounds because that's when I'm going to feel good about myself or I'm going to feel confident.
Yeah. That's what somebody told me that I should be at or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like I should be skinnier or whatever. And it's just a never-ending cycle of unhappiness because you're always trying to fix something, right? And it doesn't actually like change anything.
What are some of the, like a big myth out there that just drives you crazy?
Ooh, there's so many. Let's see. A big myth. Well, I think it's like one of the biggest things right now, and maybe it's not even a myth as much as it is just like a contradiction. We have two diets that are really highly recommended, veganism and paleo. And they were literally opposite of each other. Literally. Yeah. One says a lot of meat and the other one says no meat. And they both tout themselves as like the like way to get to ultimate or optimal health, right? And I think that becomes really confusing for people, right? And if you don't fall into either of those categories, or you sure as hell don't feel good on either of those things, you're like, well, where do I find myself in the middle, you know? And, you know, sugar and carbohydrates have been like the devil for the last, you know, 5-10 years, something like that, you know? And it's not about giving up those things forever. And it's not about like not having them. It's about learning about whether those things feel good in your body and then eating because it makes you feel good rather than eating because someone says so, right? So like, okay, you have a donut. Great. No problem. It's fine. You feel okay, you know? But if you have a donut a few times a day or you have one every day, you might start to feel not good, right? And then you're not making a decision based on I can't, but because it doesn't make me feel great, right? And that's like the, you know, where people, you know, exist. Like I'm one of those people who I have to have carbohydrates. I do not feel energetic. I'm super sleepy if I don't have carbohydrates. And quinoa, brown rice, there's a lot of like what I call upgrades. There's healthy versions of carbohydrates that you can have, but that serve that purpose of satisfying you, of like, you know, giving you the energy that you need. And every food you need to test out and see how it feels, right? And our body shifts and changes. So if you're under a lot of stress, what you're eating may totally be different than if you're like in a relaxed state, you know? Like cleanses and things like that. I don't ever recommend that to people when they're in a stressed out mood. Your body is like, holy crap, not only am I starving, I don't have enough energy to run my natural body functions, but you're also stressed. And, you know, all of that affects our hormones in our body and all that stuff. Like cleanses are great for some people. Do it when you have time to like relax and rest and take care of your body, because a lot of people get sick. And it's not because it could be because your body's getting rid of toxins, but a lot of times it's because your body can't handle all the stress of also not eating and whatever stress you have in your life. You know?
And different cleanses at different times of year and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Our bodies, you know, I think for me, like our bodies, you know, alter, you need like warmer vegetables, more like what they call warming fruits and vegetables, like during the colder months. You know, you can get away with fresh vegetables and raw things in spring and summertime. But we tend to like eat salads like all year long here. And it's just not like the healthiest thing to eat the same thing every day all the time. You know, you really have to like, also foods are diverse. They provide us with a lot of different kinds of nutrients, right? So if you're eating the same thing every day, you're not giving yourself the nutrients that are there in like other types of fruits and vegetables, you know, that you could really benefit from. So having a variety is really good too. But I think that's the hardest part for me, like I mentioned before, that it's not a myth, but that you have to fit into a diet type. Or that there's a specific way that you're going to eat for the rest of your life. It's not the case.
I don't want to be put in that box.
Right. Totally. I mean, like a lot of vegetarians or vegans like end up needing protein eventually, you know, that they have a hard time getting the vitamins and nutrients that they need from, you know, plant-based sources. And everybody's different. Some people do really great on it. You know, it's really, I'm not against any particular diet type. It's really about finding what works for you.
What about like food allergy testing and stuff like that? Because what comes up for me when you say, you know, eat it and, you know, be really intuitive, like really see how you feel. For me, it's like I don't know if I really need to be tested for a certain food. If I eat it and I'm like, okay, my stomach hurts. Okay, well, maybe I have an allergy to it or something like that. You know, maybe maybe not allergic, but maybe I shouldn't be eating this. You know, or something like that. Or like because the gluten intolerant, being gluten tested, and this whole gluten thing, and then you can eat gluten in Europe and doesn't affect you, and blah blah blah. It's like, oh my gosh,
it's so complicated. Totally. I think that it can be. So here's the thing: we don't really eat foods isolated, which makes it hard for us to find out how they make us feel sometimes, right? But if you start to notice, if you can start to pick up the patterns, but about, how I feel when I eat certain things, and you're exactly right. So, okay, gluten makes me bloated or gives me gas or like indigestion. You can, all those things, like, you don't have to take an antacid every time, like if you can cut tomatoes out of your diet. A lot of people don't do tomatoes, they have acid reflux, so it's really about testing it. Like tomatoes is not a bad food, but for some people it's not good for their digestion, right? Yeah. And so there are all kinds of ways that you can actually distinguish for yourself, like what is there. Now, when we get down to like, we have like mixing foods and things like that, it can be challenging to distinguish what's actually like causing you inflammation or what's actually bothering you. So that's when food testing comes in really great. But if you're having mild reactions to things and you just kind of like want to get in touch with what's going on, you could literally just do a food journal for a couple weeks and start paying attention to what I recommend is looking at how foods make you feel like an hour after you eat them. And things can feel good at different times of the day. So like, for example, some people are really sensitive to carbohydrates in the middle of the day. We'll save them for dinner, or have them at breakfast, whenever. It could be, one of the ones that I wanted to mention was sleepiness. That's a good thing to pay attention to. Some foods cause sleepiness.
Yeah.
And so it's really, that's like another opportunity to look at like, oh, okay, that's producing some kind of reaction in my body that's not the energy that I want, right?
Yeah.
So you can kind of look at that as well. Let's see, what other kind of indications?
Yeah, oatmeal makes me sleepy, but I love it. I love oatmeal. I pretty much cut it out of my diet for the most part, but when I used to have it in the morning, I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna just go take a nap.
Yeah.
So I don't do like that in the morning. Like if I want some sort of like quote unquote carbohydrates like that or some grains, I usually save it for the evening. And then I get sleepy. I'm like, oh great.
Yeah, you could try. There's like other things you could try, like buckwheat and stuff like that. Yeah, other oatmeal type ish things.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good that you know that, right? Or you have it before you go to bed. It's like your dessert. You know, like puts you to sleep. This is perfect.
Yeah.
Have a little bit less or something. Yeah, so it's kind of like you get to be able to play around with it, and bringing that awareness like really can be really helpful. Because like I said, we shift and change as we get older, as our activity levels change, and so paying attention to all of that is a valuable tool that you can continue to use over and over again.
What books and resources do you find now that either inspire you or that you use in your practice? People, whatever.
Let's see. Okay. Obviously, Intuitive Eating, the Intuitive Eating book. They have a whole certification program. So if there's any coaches on here that are interested in learning about intuitive eating, they do that. But she has a great book that has the 12 principles of intuitive eating and lots of examples. So it's really cool because you get to hear all these different people's examples of like what we've been talking about, like not having control with donuts or whatever. A lot of people experience that. Yeah, totally. Janine Roth's book, Women, Food, and God. So it's amazing. It's all about how we like view ourselves and our relationship to food. So she really talks all about like the self-esteem part that's related to our relationship with food. And she obviously targeted women, but it really applies to everyone about like, that the deep-rooted things that have us eat the way that we eat. And, have us not feel good enough about our bodies or ourselves. That's a really, really great one. I just read The Medical Medium, kind of an interesting, different take on medicine. So he kind of combines food and emotions, and he's a spiritual guy. So his story is that he started to be able to diagnose people with diseases that like when he was like 8 or 9 years old, that he started to get these like messages or whatnot. But he has a whole book written around particular foods and their healing properties, and then also the emotions that are related to it. So he kind of has like a spiritual, emotional, like, tie in there. So those are kind of like the three that I, but I also use Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. Awesome book, because I work a lot in mindset. Most of what I do is not talking about the particular foods that you eat and why they're bad or wrong or what you should be eating, but what's having you eat that way, right? So we can have control over actually getting the cravings rather than having to fight them or something like that. So Louise Hay is awesome with mindset stuff. But yeah, those are probably the biggest ones. I don't know if there's any others. Those are probably the ones that I use most often.
What about other influences or resources that you use just in general in your life, just for like your lifestyle or you know?
Let's see.
I mean, do you meditate? Do you have a certain stuff?
Yeah, totally. So I meditate every morning. It's definitely, there's so many different health values to meditating.
How long have you been doing that?
Probably the last 3 years. So I had these like terrible, awful stomach issues, and if anyone has digestive issues, meditation is a really, really awesome way to solve those things. So basically our bodies get in like flight or fight mode, you know, and we produce all this cortisol, and it basically shuts off your digestive system. And so we eat, like we get hungry, but our digestive system is not open because it's been so stressed out. And then we can't digest food, and then it sits there basically and just does not digest. So we get stomach, you know, pain, bloating, all of that stuff, you know. So meditation really completely helped me to like relax, de-stress, like allow my body to function, you know, normally. And now I know, like, if my stomach hurts, I'm like, okay, you're not breathing. You haven't been breathing. Breathe, meditate. Breathing is really, really important. Meditation can come in so many forms. I always tell people, there are so many different types of meditation, and you're going to go through all of them in your lifetime. Do not stick with one if it's not working for you. Try different things out. Don't feel bad if you can't stay focused, you know. There's so many different things, but breath meditation in itself, even if you just took 10 breaths a day, like 10 deep breaths, that in itself could make a tremendous difference on your health and your wellness and all that stuff. So
I actually have that in my calendar to do every day.
Breathe.
A reminder.
Yeah. Breathe.
Give yourself 10 breaths.
Yeah,
it just
absolutely.
pings up. It's like, give yourself 10 breaths.
Yeah, it's amazing how it totally shifts the system that our body is functioning in.
Yeah.
So it totally shifts our brain and what it's using to keep us going forward and stuff like that. So
yeah. Anything else? Any other practices that you use, or like relationships, resources that you draw off of?
I work really closely with a woman by the name of Amy Krasner, Nourished Balance. She's a nutritionist here in San Diego. She's amazing, and she and I work very, very closely with our clients. Both of us work with people to really like push them through like whatever it is, whatever challenges that they have. She's really awesome.
Why women? I mean, why have you focused in on your practice with women?
Yeah, I work with men and women.
Okay.
I've worked with both.
Yeah.
My branding is female. They tell you to pick a brand. Let's see. I think like ultimately, like I have a lot of compassion for women because it's really, really common out there for us to, since from a very young age, that our appearance is like who we are and who we become and how we're valued, right? So little girls, you have a pretty dress, you're 3 years old, and someone's like, oh, you look so pretty, right? So you're getting attention, you're being rewarded, you're being recognized for being beautiful, right? And so that doesn't stop, right? And as we, get older, it still seems to live in us, and things are shifting now, but it still seems to live in us that our self-worth is valued by how beautiful we are. And it doesn't empower people sometimes, right? And it doesn't feel good, and especially if you're trying to fall into the standards of what you see in the magazines, and food plays a huge role in that, right? Like what you eat, what you don't eat, was going to make you look like this person or it's not, right? That's what ultimately, that's like what a lot of women are hoping, right? And so it's really, like one of my big missions is really to kind of transform the culture around that, so that we can be valued in a lot of different ways, but have it empower us, right? And, really be thankful for and grateful for the way that we look and however that may be, and not see it as something that needs to be fixed or changed. But that's kind of like where that all came from, is really having those thoughts out of the way so that they could focus on what's really important to them, whether that be their families, their career, doing whatever big good things they're doing in the world, is having that not be the thing that stops them.
So if you could do it all over again, would you change anything? Would you, like, if you can tell your self 10 years ago, do something different, go this path, or?
No, I don't think so. Since I've started my business, I've never been, business is challenging. I won't say that it's not. There are ups and downs like crazy. But I continue to just be so grateful that I have the lifestyle that I live, that I get to do the things that I get to do, that I have fun doing them. I love talking to my clients, and, I love being, with women and doing workshops and things like that. And it's awesome.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't get old, like it hasn't gotten old yet, know, and that's pretty good, I think. That feels pretty good, because usually about a couple of years you can be like, okay, well, things are kind of boring now. I want to do something different,
or just a major struggle and I'm not enjoying this anymore.
Yeah. And I mean, I cannot say that there's not struggles. Of course there are. And sometimes you're like, wait, like, am I supposed to be doing this? Because this is feeling really challenging, But at the end of the day, I still love it. Like, there's nothing that has me say, like, I don't love what I'm doing. Yeah.
If you had to pack up everything and put it on your back, your whole life on your back, where would you go? Where would you end up? What would be the first thing you do?
Ooh, like if I had to move from here?
Yeah, I mean, like, your whole life is on a backpack.
That would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Gosh, I could go anywhere. Do I have money to play with?
Of course, sure.
Okay. Let's see. I think I would go travel, to be honest. I've built my business to be able to do that at the same time. So I've been gone. I was just in Breckenridge. I was in LA. I went to Cancun early this year, and went to Boulder. And so I think I would travel. I think I would go.
Any particular place you'd go first?
Croatia has been on my list for a while. Paris I've never been to. Peru is on my list. I really would love to see Machu Picchu.
Mm-hmm.
I love pyramids. I've been all over Central America and Central America and visited so many pyramid sites, and they're spectacular.
Yeah.
They are so magical, amazing. Maybe Thailand, something like that.
Yeah.
I have so many places. I just saw that movie Doctor Strange yesterday.
So we saw that the other day.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Now I want to go to Nepal, And maybe I need to go live in some sort of spiritual sanctuary for a period of time.
A little plug for Doctor Strange. It's a good movie, and it
awesome.
has some pretty cool places like Nepal and stuff like that. Really, really neat. Yeah.
That was an awesome movie. All about our mindset too.
Yeah.
Super cool. It was great.
Yeah, it's like The Matrix, but pretty flowers.
Yeah. Exactly.
You're not in a computer.
It's a little more feminine.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, you're not in a computer. What's your guilty music pleasures? Like somebody wouldn't know about you, singing in the car, in the shower, or something like that.
I don't have. They're not even no one would know. I am that person that's sitting at a stoplight and I'm rocking out in my car with my hands up. And it happens to me all the time. I look over and people are smiling at me and I'm yeah, that's me. Let's see. I love house music, to be honest. I don't drink coffee or anything like that. I just listen to house music in the morning and get all pumped up with my music in the car. If I'm on my way to a really important meeting, like I just turn on my favorite song and like dance the music is awesome. I like all kinds of things, but I can totally get down to like some good Rachmaninoff like piano music too. So my mind thinks a mile a minute. Like I just have thoughts like all the time. So music kind of like helps me to focus sometimes.
Yeah.
It's definitely a good thing to help not get distracted by like all the shiny things that are happening.
Do you have like some sort of like, how do you track all your thoughts and all the things that come in? Do you have like a capturing tool like with you at all times?
Oh yeah. I was just telling you before we got on, my brain is about 5 minutes long. So my memory lasts
my memory
lasts about 5 minutes. So I literally have a notepad in my phone that I write down everything. As soon as like something comes up, I like write it down immediately because I won't remember.
Yeah.
There's too many like things going on for me to remember all the things I have to do or people I need to contact or check in with or whatever.
What do you do with it after you write it down?
So I go back through it like either that day to make sure I've like done it or I put it in my calendar. So if it's something that's like a big project that's going to take me something, then I'll go stick it in my calendar somewhere. I use a Google Calendar. It's all mapped out with pretty colors and...
So is mine.
See? Because I have to make sure I stay balanced, right? So all of my work stuff has one color. All of my like separate projects, I do research still, and so that's in one color. Volunteering's another color. Personal stuff is another color.
Yeah.
So if there's any color that dominates my calendar, You're know
like,
that it's
flag.
like not okay.
Yeah.
It's time to switch things up here a little bit.
That's good. Yeah. I don't organize my calendar like that. I mean, I have different colors for different things, but in the back of my mind, I would like a certain color to dominate it because that means my appointments that I have, like they're a certain color.
Cool,
I'm like, okay, if there's a lot of green, then I know I'm good this week. If there's only a few, I'm like, shit.
That's a good. I like green. That's like $sign green.
Exactly, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. No, yeah, I do it for balance purposes because I'm one of those people who would, I have a lot of friends and I have a lot of like opportunities to do like fun things or to like connect with people. And so I can definitely say yes to often. I'm like, wait a second. There's no time for sleep in my calendar. So I have to be careful.
Do you schedule sleep?
No, I have scheduled like bedtime. Ish. Yeah.
If there was anybody you could talk to, interview, hang out with, learn from, alive or dead, who would it be?
Oh, gosh, there's so many people. One of the women that I really love right now is Williamson. She's she's just a really excellent communicator. She has really valuable things to say. She's not afraid to share her opinion, but she does it with like such grace and ease and acceptance for like all people's opinions. And she's very spiritual. She has some really great courses like around communication and relationships and stuff like that. But she's like really, really, like I want to be her when I grow up.
Really?
Yeah, totally. Her, and then the other person that I really like follow fairly closely is Marie Forleo. She has really awesome energy. Again, really super great mindset techniques. She sends a video every week, and they're always like incredibly relevant to like everything that I'm doing in my life. So those two people probably would be awesome to meet.
Just shadow them for a while, pick their brain, and explore their space.
Yeah, they're just like amazing people and so well spoken and awesome.
So what's next for you inside of your business, your life? Like what's on the horizon? Maybe a big project.
Yeah, let's see. So many things. Oh my gosh.
So many songs, so many people, so many things.
Oh my gosh,
Goes
my
right
life. Let's see. I do hold a monthly dinner party. So that's like the soonest thing that's coming up. So I teach mindful eating at dinner, which is awesome. It's really fun. I bring in a private chef who cooks this like incredible meal, and we have wine and things like that. So that's really, really fun. And then coming up in January, I am doing, Amy, the nutritionist, and I are partnering to do a one-day event for women around creating their year for health and wellness. So
And Amy
Krasner from
Oh, right.
Nourish Balance. And she and I we're gonna be doing like meal prep and like how do you set your goals and your intentions for the year, clearing out whatever happened in last year because that's important to do, letting go of it, no guilt about what you did or didn't accomplish, and setting some new goals and things that you can actually stick to. So I'm excited about that
Awesome.
for January.
I'll get that info from you and put it in the show notes. Like,
Awesome.
where people can find it.
Awesome. That'd be great. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It'd be fun.
Anything else personally, like skydiving or anything else coming up? Big wave surfing?
I'm traveling. I have a couple friends getting married in Mexico, one in Cabo and one in San Miguel de Allende, and next year, so I'll be doing that. I love travel, as you can tell. I'm like, once a month I go somewhere.
That's so great.
It's awesome. Yeah, I love it. Love having my own business and being able to do that. I don't know. Actually, potentially starting to create some more dinner experiences for some corporate events. So that should be fun. These dinner parties are fun. I mean, we use blindfolds and all kinds of fun things. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I haven't, I've been focusing so much on this year. I have not created next year yet. So I plan to do that at my event.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, one last question is if you look at what's going on right now with everything and you would be able to mentor somebody or somebody's in front of you and they're like, okay, I want to do something like the next big thing. What do you see that's missing in the world? Like maybe you have a young girl or not necessarily a young girl, like high school, like mentoring somebody. If they're like, okay, what should I do? And you say, okay, this is missing, focus on this, or like, what do you see in the world that's missing that would like our youth could kind of fill on?
So I think that like right now we're in this and this goes for our generation, but it really goes for the younger generations too, is that we're in this like ever pursuit of happiness, right? And we want life to be perfect. And so I meet young people all the time who are so afraid to do what they love because they're, one, afraid they can't do it, or two, they're afraid they're making the wrong choice. And thankfully, we live in a time now where there's like that ability to be flexible and to really, I majored in molecular biology and I'm not using it. And that's okay, right? And so really like getting that, like, it's okay to like try things out. You're going to fail, but really like learning that, finding that passion around something that contributes to the world is one of the most powerful ways to stick to something.
Yeah.
Really getting connected to like, okay, like I really like, even if it's music, I really love music and I want to use music to like empower people in the world. Great. Follow your heart. Go after it. It's going to be challenging. You're going to, like with any job, with anything, you're going to learn and you're going to learn over and over and over again. But it will be worth it because there's nothing that keeps you sticking to it than like really being able to do something for like the world, contributing in that way. And you can change your mind. Totally okay.
Yeah.
Things shift and change. That's okay too. But I think, finding that like that way that you want to contribute, and that really helps you stick to it, Or have you ever read The Outliers?
Oh, yeah.
10,000 hours. Put in your 10,000 hours,
Yeah.
And you can achieve anything. Right?
Yeah.
So it takes something for sure. But having that, it hopefully, like learning that like failure is not something to be afraid of.
Yeah. If you're not failing, you're not trying, you're not out there getting your butt to the fire.
Like you gotta try a little bit bigger.
Yeah. Cool. Well, where can people find you?
Okay, so let's see, I have websites. So hellobeautifulhealth.com. I have an Instagram account at Hello Beautiful Health and Facebook. You can just search for me and there it is. That's all of it.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for doing this, and it's been really, really great. And
awesome.
Yeah, I love hearing your story and what inspires you, and so great. Keep it up.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I love it.
You're
Absolutely.
welcome. All right. Cool. Adios. Thanks, Marisa, for being on the podcast. And this is just hot off the press. She just sent me a link. If you go to hellobeautifulhealth.com/mini-wellness-retreat, she's got a new project going on. So go to her website, hellobeautiful.com, and check it out. One more thing before you go. Float North County is running a deal right now, and I did the last podcast on floating and my experience of floating, and I interviewed Glenn from Float North County, and it was awesome. If you haven't heard it, go and check it out. And he's running a deal right now until the end of the year, until the end of 2016. So it's December, and yes, 2016 is coming to a close. So go in there ASAP. And he's running a deal, 3 package of float, and it's $30 off. So go in there, mention the podcast, mention you heard it from the Robert Budd Show, and get $30 off a 3-session float. Go, do it now. Your body will thank you. All right, and I thank you. Adios. Hello, all. Before you go, would you like to get an email? I put out these emails to just the informational stuff, like what I'm up to, what other people are up to, who's been on the podcast. I've put in some interesting articles, and who the shows are brought to you by, and the in-depth behind the scenes kind of stuff, like, you know, who sponsors these shows, and just as kind of the stuff that I'm into, whether I'm into eating something different or a different supplement, different kinds of workouts, whatever that might be. I throw that in the email. It's a very short email, and if you would like to get these emails, go to robertbudd.net and sign up for the newsletter. And like I said, it's a very short email, and I'd love to shoot this out to you. So, and that's it. And hope you have a beautiful day and enjoy your life. Smile a lot and wave to random people. All right, love you.